Zenitsu Agutsama from Demon Slayer is a character with a really cool design and cool abilities. I really like the aesthetics of his clothes and hair and also his abilities. And Thunder Breathing is really cool as a fighting ability as well. But he just has a really missed on character arc. Zenitsu is the coward of the group, so he's always afraid, so he should have gotten proper character development from a coward to a respectable fighter and demon slayer. So in the show, whenever Zenitsu is in a fight, he just fights while asleep, so the writing just completely avoids dealing with Zenitsu's character. And then he suddenly becomes a fearless demon slayer monster in the Hashira Training and Infinity Castle arc without really any build-up or development towards that in the arcs before that, which just makes him much less of an interesting character. The design is there, but the character arc is missing, which is what we will fix today and rewrite his character arc to give him proper character development. Now, one thing that I like about Zenitsu's character is that it just makes sense to have a character who's scared out of his mind of demons, because let's be real, if there are man-eating demons with magical abilities that also regenerate, I would also be scared and just try and make a run for it. So Zenitsu is very relatable in this to me, not being as overly brave as all the other demon slayers, which makes it all the more interesting to see him grow and overcome his fear and finally stand up for himself and fight the demons. So our version of Zenitsu's story will still have the same introduction, with Tanjiro meeting him on the way to the Tsuzumi Mansion. But everything in the Tsuzumi Mansion will be different this time. This time the sister of the three siblings, Teruko, in the Tsuzumi Mansion will be 15 years old, 1 year younger than Zenitsu, who is 16 years old at that time. So like we know Zenitsu, he will obviously start simping over her. And once they get to the Tsuzumi Mansion, Zenitsu gets separated with his sister, facing the drum demon Kyogai, a former lower demon moon. And Tanjiro and the younger brother Shuichi will face the tongue demon in the Tsuzumi Mansion. In the original, Zenitsu got so scared of the demon that he fell unconscious and one-hitted the demon while asleep, which is a problematic writing that I really dislike because it just avoids dealing with Zenitsu facing the demons and his fears, and thus avoids dealing with Zenitsu's character, which also stops any character growth or development. So we will cut it entirely that Zenitsu falls asleep during fights for the whole show, and give him a character development through all these fights. We will also give Teruko the rare blood that Kyogai was after, because otherwise he wouldn't have a reason to attack Zenitsu and the sister, because Zenitsu wouldn't attack first like Tanjiro did. Now Zenitsu will also be crying and shouting in fear, and he even begs for a stronger demon slayer or the sister to fight the drum demon. So like her brother originally did, Teruko also tells Zenitsu that it's pathetic that he's crying out to a girl, even though he is older, a man and not a woman, and is a trained demon slayer with a katana. But Zenitsu just can't get over it and is so locked in fear that he steps behind Teruko, accidentally drops his katana in front of her feet in fear, and tells Kyogai to eat the sister first instead of fighting him, and is trying to run away. Teruko tries to defend herself with the katana, but Kyogai uses his drum scratching ability and Teruko instinctively tries to jump away from it, but the attack hits her on her back and she gets deep scars in her back, starts bleeding and falls unconscious. In the meantime, Inosuke meets Tanjiro and Shuichi and the tongue demon, and Tanjiro's and Inosuke's first interaction stays pretty much the same, with Inosuke challenging Tanjiro to a fight, but it's just the tongue demon that's in the room instead of Kyogai. And then after a while, Tanjiro and Shuichi also get switched to another room by the older brother Kiyoshi hitting the drum that he picked up from Kyogai, like they also got switched to a different room in the original. And Inosuke stays there and fights and defeats the tongue demon. After walking around the mansion for a while, Tanjiro and Shuichi arrive to see Teruko lying on the ground unconsciously, and Kyogai wanting to attack Zenitsu to eliminate him as a threat, and Zenitsu screaming and asking Kyogai to spare him. Now Tanjiro, seeing Zenitsu refusing to fight because of his fear, shouts at Zenitsu and asks why he didn't fight the drum demon, and says that his current behavior is pathetic, but that Zenitsu could become a strong demon slayer and defeat demons if he could only just overcome his fear and be brave enough to stand up and fight, giving him a whole emotional speech. Tanjiro then fights Kyogai and defeats him the same way that he did in the original series. So when they get out of the mansion, they arrive to Nezuko at the same time as Inosuke, so Zenitsu would not be there and standing up against Inosuke protecting Nezuko's box, because it just wouldn't fit and not be much of a development if he just jumps from being super scared to being brave and standing up to Inosuke in the next moment. So we will just jump straight to the confrontation between Tanjiro and Inosuke without Zenitsu protecting the box. So in the aftermath of the fight, they bring Teruko to the medics, but it turns out that she is paraplegic now, so she will be disabled for the rest of her life and will never be able to walk again. So Zenitsu would be very shocked and angry at himself that he didn't stand up to fight and save Teruko, who he really liked when he still could have. So this and Tanjiro defeating Kyogai and giving him an emotional speech creates the want in Zenitsu to overcome his fears and become stronger, so that next time he can protect his girl and his friends and not let the same thing happen again. But Zenitsu is obviously still very much afraid of demons and thinks that Tanjiro is just a prodigy and that he himself is incapable and will be unable to slay demons. So it will take more time and development for Tanjiro's message to sink in and Zenitsu slowly starting to step forward and overcome his fears. So Zenitsu this time does a bit of training in the short time before they get onto the next mission, and will even ask Tanjiro for help with training and overcoming his fears later on. In this timeline, Zenitsu also has not mastered his Thunder Breathing Form 1, Thunderclap and Flash, but only Eureka one, since Thunderclap and Flash from the beginning, and having Zenitsu one-tap demons in the second episode that he's in would just be overpowered. So Zenitsu still got the same message from his master to just focus on mastering one Thunder Breathing Form. But this time it's the Thunder Breathing Form 3 Thunderswarm, which are quick thunder breathing sword slashes, but not a one-tapping sprint dash forwards. So it's still a quick and decent fighting ability, but not overpowered for the beginning, which he has been and is mastering during the current training. And Zenitsu's mastery of this technique shows that if Zenitsu is able to learn this one ability, he will also be able to learn new thunder breathing techniques as well, and also that mastering the one thing that you are good at can just be enough, and it will be enough in the next trial that Zenitsu will face, which will be the Nagatsumo Mountain. So during the Nagatsumo Mountain arc, Zenitsu this time encounters a weaker demon slayer who is fighting the spider demon, and said demon slayer has already injured the spider demon but is more about to lose. When Zenitsu first sees this, he is just as scared again, but when he sees the demon slayer is about to die in the fight, he wants to stop the same thing that happened with Teruko again. And since there's no one else around who could fight the spider demon, Zenitsu harnesses all his courages and steps in, and Zenitsu is able to slash and hit the demon a few times with his thunder breathing slashes, but also gets slashed by the demon with his poison. Then the other demon slayer stands up again and distracts the spider demon, so Zenitsu is able to attack the spider demon from behind and behead him. So the fight ends relatively quickly, but Zenitsu also gets really scared because of the poison. So Zenitsu still survives the fight, but is also afraid that he could die in the next fight. So after some more training, we move on to the Mugen Train arc. And in the original, Nezuko wakes up Inosuke with her demon art flames. And as we don't want Zenitsu sleeping in the fight, this time she will wake up Zenitsu with her flames as well. But Zenitsu thinks that his previous demon killing success was only luck, and that he could only do it because it was a weaker demon, and he was the only one to save the dying demon slayer. Zenitsu starts fighting Enmu's tentacles, but then gets overwhelmed again, because this time the fight keeps going on for a while, which gives him time to think and run out of stamina and adrenaline, so his fear starts taking over eventually. And also this time he does not have anyone he has to protect, where he is the only one who could do it and has other fighters around him who he can hide behind. I won't change the overall outcome of the Mugen Train arc. I guess Rengoku will just destroy a few more tentacles. So after the fight, Zenitsu is down and thinks he won't be able to become a demon slayer, and Rengoku's death only makes it worse. But then Tanjiro comes to motivate him again, restating that his only problem is fear, and that his success in killing the demon on Nagatsumo Mountain already proves that he is able to do it. He just needs to be brave. And then Zenitsu meets Tezuko again, who is now disabled and has to live with it. So Zenitsu swears to himself that he will try again. So he starts training with Tanjiro and Inosuke again, and Zenitsu is still afraid, but with every day of training he improves on his reflexes and gets more confident and better with his thunder breathing. So he slowly starts to believe in himself again and what Tanjiro said. One day during training, Zenitsu even does a thunder breathing sprint leap towards Tanjiro, who is standing a few meters away, with so much speed and force that it knocks Tanjiro over when both of their swords clash. And after some time they start to go on demon slaying missions again. And in the original series, Tanjiro and Nezuko go to slay this demon here, who then escapes into the village. But this time we will have Zenitsu go with them, and he will be the first one to catch up to the demon in the village. Zenitsu is still scared, but he thinks of his training and leaps forward and decapitates the demon with his thunder breathing. So when they get to the entertainment district, Zenitsu sets himself the goal to not retreat back and fight all the fights to the end. So the entertainment district arc stays relatively the same. And when Inosuke and Zenitsu join the fight, with Gyutaro now being there as well, Zenitsu sees that the group will need every help that they can get if they want a chance at defeating the Upper Moon. So after struggling to defend against Daki's attack for a while, the pressure of the attacks finally force Zenitsu to unlock his thunder breathing form 1, which he also always uses in the original series Thunderclap and Flash. By remembering the thunder breathing leap that he did during his training with Tanjiro, and the theory his master taught him about it before he told Zenitsu to focus on mastering Ron form. So even without Zenitsu falling asleep, they still manage to defeat the Upper Moon. And the entertainment district arc ends the same way. So after the entertainment district arc, Zenitsu is on a similar level as he was with the sleeping ability in the original series at the same time, and he will also continue training it during the Hashira training arc. Now for the Infinity Castle arc. I would not change anything about the Infinity Castle arc. I have not read the manga and I only know anything about what happens to Zenitsu in the Infinity Castle arcs from spoilers online. So as far as I know, in the original, Zenitsu is finally awake during the fights and is not the scared coward anymore in the fights, and even builds upon what he previously learned by creating his own thunder breathing style fighting Kaigaku. So I like what Zenitsu is like in this arc, so I wouldn't change anything about it. The only thing that I dislike about this in the Infinity Castle arc is that there's not really any build-up or development towards Zenitsu finally being awake during the fights and not scared anymore. He just pretty suddenly becomes like this during the Hashira training arc, and this just comes too fast and too much out of nowhere. So this was my character arc rewrite of Zenitsu's character arc. I hope you enjoyed the character development and depth that he got in this, and more of his own story and journey, in addition to the flashbacks that are already in the original show, which I didn't really mention much in the video because they are already part of the story. So if you have different opinions on Zenitsu's character or different ideas of how you would have rewritten his character arc, then I'd like to hear about it in the comments. That's all I've got for today. I'm out and have a nice day.